Hey guys, okay, so today I'm going to be talking about college application advice / how to get into your dream or stretch school. The school that I go to is pretty much, it was my biggest stretch school. I thought that there was like no way I was going to get in, but I kind of tried to brainstorm some creative ways I could try to get my foot in the door and hopefully get my application accepted or at least get waitlisted, and it turns out I was able to get in, and I think it was because I was able to strategically plan my application, not because I necessarily had all of the qualifications they were looking for. I was able to kind of fill in the parts I left out. Like, for example, my SATs were on the very, very low end of what they accepted. In fact, my math score was actually not even in the range of what they accepted at all. It was like, like way, way lower. Reading and writing were there, but math was so bad. I was like, how could they want to accept me if I'm like so below the average? It was like literally really bad. So I was like, okay. And my grades, they were good. They weren't quite at the range that they really liked. The first thing I did, and first thing I'm gonna recommend to you guys, is to specifically don't act like you're applying to your college, act like you're applying to your major. What I mean by that is kind of like brand yourself for whatever major you're applying for. Most schools, including mine, you don't just apply to the college, you apply to the school within the college that you want to be a part of. My school is School of Arts and Communications, technically Communication Studies / PR. That's my major, and then I also have a minor in Public Health and another minor in Professional Writing, which is kind of like journalism. My math scores were low, but my major didn't necessarily require really high math scores, although the overall school wanted higher ones. So I was like, all right, I've really got to make up for this in other ways. So on my application, instead of just, talking about everything, I basically made myself sound like I was already a communication studies major. In school, I talked about everything that pertained to it. I was class president and student body president, so I had a lot of event planning experience, public relations, marketing, public speaking, all that stuff. So I basically splattered that all over my application. I talked so much, like in every little essay when they talk about, there's the main essays, which we'll get to later, but there's also like sub-essays where they might talk about like, oh, what was meaningful to you in high school? What clubs were you involved in? I talked about the other things that I did, played softball, was in band, choir. I really, really kind of put those things on the back burner a little bit and just emphasized my student government stuff because I thought that pertained the most to my major. I wanted them to think like, oh, well, she should totally be in our school because she would add a lot to the major. If you're like a freshman or sophomore in high school right now, this is really the time to kind of it sounds scary to say choose your major, but really if you can think of something that you think you'd like to do, like if you think you'd like to do nursing, start now with doing things that are kind of related to the realm of nursing, like possibly volunteering at a hospital or a nursing home, being involved in like sports, athletics, like things like that, because I think they just kind of go along with the sciences a little bit. You want to be able to understand how like muscles work and you use those muscles when you're running. I know it sounds like such a stretch, but I think they really love when people are curious, fascinated, and willing to learn. If you can put out there that you're already trying to do that, that is fantastic. So basically, my other recommendation, like in the subheading of that, is if you don't know what to major in, build your major around what you did in high school. It'll give you a much better chance of getting in. So I was saying if someone was an athlete in high school, stronger in the math and science classes than the English classes, possibly try to apply into like a health and exercise science program, pre-physical therapy, biology, something within that realm, just because you fit it so well. Even if you're really not sure, just apply. You can always switch out later as long as you do well in school. Some schools have prerequisites, like you might not be able to switch out into like engineering or something like that, but you might be able to switch out into like math education or psychology or business or like really most majors you can switch. So basically, what I'm saying is apply for the major that you would be best suited at that college, not necessarily the one that you want the best, but the one that you're best suited at, because that's the best way to get your foot in the door. Who knows, you might end up loving that major, but if you don't, you can switch. I have friends who thought, they were so convinced that they were in the right major for them. They hated their major after they started taking classes. They were like, oh, this is not what I pictured business to be like at all. There's so much like math involved, and I'd really be better suited in psychology because I want to understand people better. What I'm basically saying is apply for the major that your resume best suits. It'll really help you get your foot in the door. Even if it's not necessarily the one, you know, your number one choice, just apply for it. Had I applied to the business school at my college instead of communications, even though, you know, in some ways they're similar, I might have not gotten in. Now that I'm in the communication studies department, I could easily transfer into the business if that's what I wanted. So the second point that I really wanted to get into for getting into your dream school is to write your essay strategically. Your essay is such a big component of your application to so many schools because even though your application talks all about you, your essay kind of shows what many people might not see about you. You know what's kind of funny? I feel like your teachers could technically write your application for you. If you have a teacher that knows you really well and they know what you're involved with, you know, like what major you'd want to choose, your grades, your SAT scores, like someone else could write that for you, but your essay is all you. That's why I feel like it's such a critical thing to look at. Number one tip that you really, really have to follow if you want to get into your dream school with your essay is do not be cliche by any form of the word. Like, I just can't stress it enough. Like, in my advanced writing class in high school, we had to read each other's like college application essays and like give advice. And I remember so many people, they wrote about like their grandparents inspiring them and their parents inspire them because they work hard and they, you know, they help them. And it's so great. And family's so great. I wanted to write mine all about my grandpa, but I was like, you know, the college probably has gotten like 2,000, 7,000, like so many essays about someone's grandpa. It makes you not stand out. It makes it seem like you can't really think outside of the box. I mean, unless you have an amazing story, like my friend Bodhi, he goes to Princeton. He wrote his about his dad, but it was because he wrote about the perspective of when he was viewing his dad building a library in Nigeria, where they're from. Like, I mean, that's kind of like insane. If you have a really cool story like that, go for it and tell it, but there's a lot of grandpas that, you know, that worked hard and were diligent, amazing men, and oh my gosh, I am the biggest lover of old people. Like, you have to understand, like, I would write mine all about old people, but really think outside of the box. If your prompt is to, which, you know, sometimes you have about like 5 or 6 prompts to choose from. A very popular prompt is, you know, talking about like who's impacted you in your life, why are you the way you are now. You know, instead of thinking of the normal people, like the sister, the parent, the grandparent, the youth pastor, the teacher, think about people who might have inspired your life in a different way, in a small way, but in an impactful way. I mean, I wrote mine on this janitor at my school, and he, you know what's kind of funny is that, like, it seems like, oh, you were trying to be so creative with that, but really when I was thinking about it, I was like, he is someone at my school who always inspires me. I always loved talking to him, and he just always, he showed me patience so much. So I talked about how my school's janitor taught me patience. I mean, like, you don't really get feedback, so, I mean, I guess my school liked it because I'm in there now, but I mean, I know like my teachers in high school were really like encouraging that sort of thing. Okay, so I'm on a website right now that has the Common App prompts right now. So I'm just going to go through each of them and just kind of give like a little example of thinking at it from a different perspective just to make yours stand out a little bit. So, okay. One option is to recount an incident or time when you experienced failure. How did it affect you and what lessons did you learn? All right, so a way to possibly approach that topic that could be a little bit different than the norm is I feel like a lot of people are going to write about a class in school. Like maybe they're naturally bad at math like me and they worked really, really hard and, you know, eventually got an A. Like that's really boring. Don't talk about that. Possibly failure, don't look at it. This is just, I mean, there's so many ways you could write this, but just an idea that comes to my mind is don't look at failure as like a huge journey. Possibly look at failure as one little activity. Like an option for this, I'm trying to really think of a good way to look at this one. You could potentially, one way you could possibly look at this is failure in not necessarily things that are measured. Possibly look at it in like a friendship. Like, did you ever do something wrong that kind of like messed up a relationship, and how did you work on that? What lessons did you learn? Like, have you ever lost like a best friend? You could talk about a failed relationship. Maybe you could write this as an essay, as if you're writing to your ex-boyfriend or girlfriend, and talk about like how you would treat them differently. What you've learned. Like, I feel like that could be something kind of unique that is not normally on the app, and I think it's something you could easily, like, there's so many emotions involved in a breakup that you could really like connect to your inner emotions. Alright, well, that's my idea for that one. Okay, it took me so long to think of that one that I could do a completely separate video just on the essay. I'm not going to go into every single prompt, but there's just a way to look at it. I could really take a long time on this and do that and make this video like 30 minutes long, but I'm going to try to stop at that. Actually, if you guys specifically have a certain prompt and you're trying to think of a way to look at it, message me or put it in the comments below. Like, I will work on a single prompt. Like, I will be happy to do that. And the next week, like, I don't go back to school until like the day after Martin Luther King Day, so I have a little bit of time right now. So yeah, just let me know what you're thinking, guys. Let me know, because I know that applications are due soon. That's why I kind of thought this would be a good video for this time of time. Alright guys, so I hope that helped you at least like a little bit. It's really just an introductory video. I really want you guys to leave comments below or questions of more things I could answer, because I had nothing to start with. I was just thinking of like things that I did to help me get into school. I think branding yourself to your major and strategically writing your essay in a non-cliche way, and just like really showing the real you, the unique you, as corny as that is, can really, really be to your advantage in getting to a good school and getting into the school that you love. So let me know if you want me to address any other topics below. I would be glad to. And good luck, everyone.